In this lecture, we're going to be talking about for loops. And this is an awesome segue from our last lecture where we were talking about lists and arrays, because with for loops, they work beautifully together. You can iterate through each item there. But first, I'm going to show you how we can do for loops where we just iterate through a range of numbers. So in Kotlin, the way to do this is you just say for with some parentheses. And let's say if we wanted to run through the numbers 1 through 10, we'd have to represent some sort of variable that we want to hold value each time we iterate through. So for example, if I made that x, I might say x in and then 1 dot dot 10. And that's saying I want to go from the number 1 to the number 10. Then I do curly brackets, and the idea here is basically that each time we loop through this range, that we are going to run the code inside of these curly brackets. And so initially x would be 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And if we want to check out this functionality, really as simple as just printing out x. So let's go ahead and run that just to kind of prove what's going on here. Boom, there it is, all 10 numbers. This range doesn't have to start at 1. We could go from like 5 to 7 or 6 even if we wanted to. Right, so if we run this, it'll just do the numbers 5 and 6. And there's nothing magical about x here. I could call this X-Men if I wanted to. It's really up to you about what you want to name things. So now the question becomes, how do for loops work with lists or arrays? And here's what we do. So let's say I make a list of my favorite candy. So I'm going to say var fav candy, and this is going to be equal to a list of, and I'm going to put some strings in here. So Snickers, definitely one of them. Then we've got, I do like the 100 grand bar, and maybe Fun Dip. Those are like my favorite candy maybe. So I go ahead and I put these here. Now if I want to iterate through all of these with a loop, I'm going to follow a very similar format that I did before, where I say something like for with my parentheses. And just to keep things consistent, I'm going to say x in, and rather than giving a range, I'm just going to give the list here, fave candy. And then I'm going to do my curly brackets after that. So now what it will do is it will run through each item in fave candy, starting at the beginning, going to the end. So first x will be equal to Snickers, then 100 grand bar, then Fun Dip. So if we wanted to make sure that this thing worked, we just go ahead and print out x again. So let's go ahead and run this. We should see these 3 items printed out. And look at that, Snickers, 100 grand bar, and Fun Dip. Okay, so that's working. Now I will say, when you're working through an array like this or a list, X is not a great name. So for example, if the array is fave candy, well, I would probably name this something like candy, because that makes sense. It's a list of candy objects, and if I'm talking about one particular candy, that's probably a better name for it rather than X. Okay, so the challenge that I have for you is not one that I proposed to the beginners. This one's a little bit of a level up, and in fact, it's talking about something that I haven't even covered as far as Kotlin and math is concerned. So I want you to do the following. Loop through the numbers 1 to 200 and print out all odd numbers. Okay, so loop through the numbers 1 to 200 and print out all the odd numbers. You're going to have to learn how to do this on your own, but I think this will be a good practice to go, check out how to find the answer to a Kotlin problem on the web. If you have any issues, I'm going to show you how I would Google this for myself. But anyways, that is the challenge for you. Go ahead and hit pause on the video now. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. A little bit tougher than what we had before as far as challenges go. The big thing that we want to do here is we want to find what are odd numbers and print them out. And in order to do that, we're going to use something that's called a modulo, but we have to figure out how to do that in Kotlin. So I first know that I need to loop through the numbers 1 to 200. So I'll just start by doing that. I'll say for x in 1 dot dot 200, so that I know that I'm looping through all of those. And then the next thing that I need to do is I need to do some sort of if statement that checks to see if a number is odd or even. So again, I think the modulo is the way to do that. I've often seen it as percentage signs, but let's see what it is in Kotlin. So I'm going to open up Safari, and I'm just going to search modulo in Kotlin. Let's see what Google has for me. We've got operating overload. Let's see here. I'm not sure that this is what I'm looking for. There we go. So arithmetic operators, we do have the modulo there. sounds like it should be pretty straightforward. So it's what it is, it's dividing, doing division, and then it gives you the remainder afterwards. So we'll say, all right, if inside of parentheses x modulo 2 is equal to 1, meaning that there is a remainder, then we know that that number is odd. And so what we will do is we will do a print line where we print out whatever x is. Okay, so looks like maybe it's this simple. Let's go ahead and run it, see what we get. And down here, okay, these are all looking odd. Let's make sure it got the number 1. Yep, it even got the number 1. Perfect. So there's the solution for that, and we still got more to go, so let's keep trucking.